Projects Behind the Scenes and Techniques by Rebecca Patrick. This is the task that I chose to do for this presentation. A bit about the group. Within the end, I ended up working with Natasha. It used to be a group of 3, but then because of the struggles that we had due to the pandemic, it ended up being back to a group of 2 again. There was many highlights and struggles during this project, as you are about to see. The rationale for the site project. The site project's rationale was to actually create a performance experience based on both the lives of students at a university as well as the history of Riverside. I guess you can say it is kind of a documentary forum, but it's also a factual performance. By bringing in the naturalistic elements, we were able to expand upon each other's individuality, as well as bringing in the beauty of the site, using the site itself as our inspiration for the performance. For example, the yoga routine that I performed is actually based off the natural site of Riverside, so it's all based off nature. So is the ukulele piece that I performed within the performance. We wanted to keep it both naturalistic and immersive so that we could keep it a factual piece with plenty of information but keep the audiences entertained and keep their attention at grasp. So how did we work on this project? We had started workshopping from the first rehearsal, holding rehearsals as we went along. We also had group meetings as well, now and again. During the rehearsals, we documented every single step of the way, so from pictures to documents to videos, audio recordings, the lot. And it came in useful for when we had to present it and perform it, since it was all done online. This is how we would document through a site called Padlet. As you can see, there's different images of the performance and the different types of information, notes on the research and on other aspects, such as routines. The practitioners. The practitioners that we chose to use for inspiration were Stanislavski, Deviate, Pink Floyd, and I guess you could argue that we also use Augusto Boal for the elements of immersive theatre. But for within this presentation, I'll be focusing on Stanislavski and Deviate. The project. So the project was a performance that had naturalistic and immersive features, as I said, with the structure as the framework. The performance itself covered all elements of performing arts so that we could all showcase our performance skills, as we all have different backgrounds in different areas. I consider myself to be a musical theatre performer, since I had finalised my skill set within the nature of musical theatre, but my strength is within dance and some music. So that's some examples of what we did during the performance. That's a yoga video, and those are links to the other types of videos for some of what we had performed. Why naturalism? One of the practitioners that we took inspiration from is Stanislavski, with his on-take of naturalism practice and technique. As previously said, we wanted to keep it naturalistic for them to both intrigue the audience as well as teaching them and educating on the life of students on a university campus, as well as teaching them the history of the site. So portraying this, we performed as ourselves, so we didn't use the use of characters to keep it factual and informative. We had explored a few Stanislavski techniques within our workshopping, and I will go on to explain them. The three main techniques that we used were given circumstances, what if, and objectives. So by using given circumstances, we were able to focus on what we are doing and what we would normally do within a day-to-day university life. Again, it was to keep it factual. What if technique was so that we could ask ourselves questions on what we would do next. And it was to help with thinking back to a day-to-day life, what we would do, what's our routine, what we can actually portray within a performance. So there are elements that the world does not need to see about us, but there's elements that the world would see when it's about student life. The objective and super objective. So the idea of this is to give yourself or the character objectives of what you're going to do next or what you're doing within the whole of the performance. The super objective is the end goal of the whole performance overall, and all the objectives have to lead to the super objective. So for example, within this, my objectives were to educate, to showcase what I would do on a day-to-day basis, to teach about the performance skills that a performing artist would have, to teach workouts that would help benefit a performer, and to show them what it's actually like to be on a university campus, and to teach them the history of Riverside. The whole super objective is to show the university, the history behind it, and to also show them what we do on a day-to-day basis. That was the end goal of this whole performance. There is a drama video which I used for my research from BBC Bite Size, which you can also find on YouTube under BBC channel as well. Another practitioner we used was deviate, and they had plenty of techniques, but we couldn't use all of their techniques because again it was for characterization. The other practitioner we got, as I just said, deviate. It ties in with the physicality aspects within the performance, workshopping process of getting with the rehearsals, also seeing what would work and what wouldn't work within this. We were able to perform immersive and entertaining, so by bringing in deviate we was able to perform it rather than just speak and just teaching. We could actually use voice, we could actually use kind of character, kind of putting on a front, but still being our natural selves, if that makes sense. Again, we couldn't use all of it because we were our own characters, so characterizational work would not work. Again, there's loads of different workshopping techniques that we would use. A quote that I got from them was, "Their performances are a collaboration of art forms using dance, physical theatre, dialogue, soundscapes and music to build an emotional memory or story for a character." So we was to do this. We included the aspects of this. And as you could see within the performance, it ended up being a collage of art forms and a collage of educational teaching as well on top. To conclude, in conclusion, based on the performance and workshopping process, we were able to see what practitioners would work best and what techniques that we could actually use. Not every technique would work in the way that you would expect it, but by further research and practice you will find a technique that would work even better and benefit the performance. For example, what didn't actually work within this was what if and some deviate techniques. To improve within the future, I would schedule rehearsals earlier, do extra research just in case, and start creating as soon as rehearsals start. A top tip I would always say is to plan and come to rehearsal with plenty of ideas. And that is the reference.